In this episode of Carpe Diem.
Our ears are one of the most advanced and perceptive sensory organs. Many parts of the human body are affected by wear and tear as we age. Our hearing systems are no different.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome. Today we're going to talk about hearing loss, but before we get to that topic, let's visit with Leah Bolton in today's Zippy Zoomer.
In Vancouver, heading up the elevator to say hi to Jerry. That's your whole surgical team?
There's a couple more.
Wow, that's a lot of people. How do you get these guys to do what you say? Don't they just,
It's really tough, I have to take the whip to them on a daily basis.
Yeah, I can see the troublemakers in here.
Let's get back to work though so we finish lunch. What's that?
Okay. We are back with our Zippy Zoomer in Vancouver. He's doing some hair replacement surgery. He's 70 years old and his name is Jerry.
We're in the 7th hour working today. I seriously thought about retiring about 2 years ago. And then what happened, there was some new development in the hair industry.
Okay.
And then I came up with an implanter, the little device we use to put the hair into the scalp.
Right.
I've been searching for that baby for 15
So
years.
you got excited because the new technology came out and you say, you know what, retirement, you can wait, right?
Yeah, and practically overnight, the quality of the work went up 20-30%. Those thin strips are further dissected into what we call flicker units. Hair grows in little bundles.
So you have tons of energy. What's your advice to anyone out there?
I ride my bike a lot. I eat really clean. I
Okay.
don't smoke, I don't drink. I have lots of hobbies.
Okay.
I go fishing the weekend, I do a lot of traveling.
Wow, okay.
Yeah, and, I got lots to do if I'm retired. Your hair is very good, Leah. You've got virtually no sign of hair
I'm
loss.
doing okay then.
You're doing fine.
All right. We're going to head back to the studio with Carmen. If you have a Zoomer to nominate, don't forget to nominate them at zippyzoomer@carp.ca. Yeah, look
good.
at all this hair.
Oh yeah, it's really good.
Interesting to learn about hair loss in the latest procedures. Now, let's talk about hearing loss and ask our panel to tell us more. Jillian?
Yes, hearing loss is a fascinating topic and there is a lot to learn about that, but it's really important to figure out when is the right time to get your hearing tested and what's involved in that process.
That's a good point Jillian brings up. The World Health Organization quotes by the time 2025 comes around that up to 1.5 billion people over the age of 65, of which 500 million will have some degree of hearing loss.
And I'm here because I was ignoring many of the warning signs, and like a frog in a bath of hot water, it slowly crept up on me. A little education got me to go get tested, and it made a huge difference.
I'm looking forward to this panel. When we come back, we'll talk about what causes hearing loss as we age.
Still ahead on Carpe Diem.
What we noticed is he turns up the TV quite loud, and sometimes he ignores my mom. We think it could be hearing or just an old habit.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
In this segment, we ask, why do we lose our hearing as we age? Let's watch a short video and find out, how old are your ears?
So, how many of the following sounds can you hear? How old are your ears? Okay, if you can hear 8,000 hertz, you're both alive and not hearing impaired. But let's keep raising the frequency. How high could you hear? If you could hear all of those frequencies, you're probably under 20 years old, but that won't last forever. Unlike other organs such as the liver or skin, the inner ear does not have the capacity to regenerate. In your ear, there are thousands of tiny nerve cells called hair cells. These are responsible for picking up different frequencies and sending the signal to the brain where it's processed. But as you age, the continual exposure to noise and loud sounds can break, bend, and destroy these cells. So why do the high frequencies go first? It turns out that the hairs tuned to high pitches are the first to encounter sound waves. As a result, they experience more stress and tend to degenerate earlier, which is why the older you are, the harder it is to hear high pitches.
I could not hear past the first test. I think it's a trick. Fred, how did you do on that one?
Well, even with my hearing aids in, it was the same result, that the tinnitus gets in the way of hearing that particular sound, because that's what I hear all the time.
So you heard the first one,
Yes,
but not the second.
not the second.
Yeah.
Well, I heard it, but I knew it was my tinnitus.
I think that's a common symptom that people get with age-related hearing loss. In addition to having a hard time communicating and understanding, tinnitus and fullness and pressure in the ears is very common symptoms.
Okay, I need to ask, what is tinnitus?
Tinnitus is an objective sound that an individual hears in their ears. So it can be described as anywhere from ringing or buzzing in the ears. Some people say it's crickets or a noise or an alarm going off. No two individuals are the same. The general consensus is that a hearing loss is from the tinnitus rather than the tinnitus causing the hearing loss.
For me, it's the sound of mosquitoes buzzing in the ear, but they're 2 octaves higher than normal, and they're always there.
Dr. Murray, why does the ear age? How does it age?
Well, like most things in the body, as we get older, things tend to change. But the way the ear generally breaks down and works is within the ear itself, you've got your outer ear, which would be your pin and your ear canal. You've got your middle ear, which is the eardrum and the bones of hearing. But actually right here, you've got your cochlea, which is your organ of hearing. And as the video was showing, within the cochlea, there's little nerves, little hair cells, and they start to degenerate with time. The model doesn't overly show here, but there's this little yellow tab coming out here, and that's the nerve of hearing. We also know that the nerve itself can start to degenerate. So as all things, it can degenerate with time.
I was very curious about my hearing, so of course I had to go get a hearing test, and of course we filmed it. Watch this.
I'm going to take a look into both of your ears so I can see what we're about to deal with.
Okay.
Okay. So I'm looking into your right ear canal. I look at the tympanic membrane, which is your eardrum. I'm checking the canal to see if there's any wax blockage that would prevent today's hearing test. Be quiet during this test. Speaking can throw off the results. There's the air pressure. Here come the beeping sounds. Well, I'm going to find out the exact facts in just a few moments here, but I always like to see what our clients have to say before I test them, because they might know, they might be in denial, or perhaps they feel normal and it is normal. Carmen, you are welcome to step in there.
This is exciting. I'm all about prevention, right? So here we go.
Enjoy your hearing test. If you were watching TV, would this volume be appropriate or would you turn it up?
I would turn it up.
I'm going to turn it up.
White. Keep.
I have more testing to do for you, but the initial news is good. This test is going to test directly from the nerve to the brain. We are skipping the eardrum. Carmen, that is a hearing test,
That was a...
and you've passed.
Oh, I was so afraid to fail. Oh my gosh. Like I knew I was okay, but you know, you just never know.
You're
Because
always
you have
curious.
moments
Yes.
where you think, am I doing the best I can to take care of what you've got? I should come and get a test once a year?
There is nothing wrong with an annual hearing test. It may not change much in the span of 1 year. That is good. It takes very little effort for us to screen you again in 1 year to tell you that things are still good.
So Jillian, explain to us a little bit more about the ritual of getting hearing tests.
Okay, well, the first thing I just wanted to say is there's no pass and fail for a hearing test. And although everybody loves to hear you passed, it's really not about passing or failing. Just like with your eyes, you know, either you have some issue or you don't, but it's not a pass or fail. So it's good to know that your hearing is probably within normal limits, but there are many individuals that do have some hearing loss, and it's not an all or nothing. But there is a point where action needs to be taken. But the hearing test, you'll be happy to know, and you've already done it, it's painless.
Yep.
And it doesn't take very long. And it's very simple to do. You're just listening for sounds and you're telling the tester when you hear them and you don't hear them.
So, Dr. Mori, why should people take these hearing tests?
You know, I think hearing loss not only affects the individual, but the social network around that individual and the family of that individual. So I think when you start to become frustrated, you can start to socially isolate yourself more. Depression rolls in. And we know those are all risk factors, not only for difficulty at home, but dementia. And that's the big buzzword right now around hearing loss, is that it's potentially a modifiable risk factor for dementia. So hearing loss does not cause dementia, dementia does not cause hearing loss, but they are things that go together that we could potentially help with.
I find communicating with my father sometimes a bit frustrating because you have to look at him in the eye, so it is a bit challenging, isn't it? Did you find that with your family? I mean, you say your family.
Well, my wife passed her test, but she also is showing some age-related hearing loss starting to happen, but it wasn't enough to intervene yet. But for myself, it was time for me to do it because there's a checklist that Hearing Life has that I could check almost every single one on the thing because I've been making adjustments and adaptations all through. I realized that I watch lips. I've been lip reading for years just because I was missing some people's thoughts. And it's frustrating for them as well.
We're going to keep talking about this subject. We're going to take a short break, but before that, let's hear how hearing affects you.
I have some trouble communicating with her because she heard some things and not heard other things. It was very difficult.
What we noticed is he turns up the TV quite loud, and sometimes he ignores my mom. We think it could be hearing or just an old habit.
Because they can't participate in conversations, they tend to become isolationists. And that's the last thing we're trying to do, especially at the senior center here. We're trying to get seniors down here, out participating and getting out of their apartments, getting out of their condos.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
Welcome back. Now let's discuss solutions to our hearing loss. We all know about hearing aids, but do we know how they really work?
As we know, hearing aids help people with hearing loss. Their job is to collect the sounds all around, make them louder and clearer, and then deliver the sounds into the ear. Check it out on my screen. Some hearing aids are called BTE and others are called ITE. Any idea what they stand for? Maybe it will help if you see how they're worn.
Aha! BTE stands for behind the ear and ITE for in the ear.
You've got it! Which type you have will be down to preference.
You can hardly see it.
Now, if someone has a more severe hearing problem, they might use a device called a cochlear implant. This is a very tiny piece of electronic equipment that's put into the cochlea during an operation. It helps the damaged or destroyed hairs by turning sounds into electrical messages that stimulate the hearing parts of your brain directly. In order for someone to hear with a cochlear implant, they have to wear a speech processor, which looks a bit like a hearing aid.
Interesting. Jillian, what's the latest technology on hearing aids?
Well, hearing aids have become quite miniaturized, and that's usually because the public is looking for that. You know, we all want to be discreet, and so discreet hearing aids are definitely the most popular. So the most popular type right now is called, it has several names, but it's a version of the behind the ear. And actually we have someone on the panel wearing one, and I don't know if the audience has noticed, but it's a wonderful product.
When I talk to people in conversation and I mention hearing aids, they say, "You have hearing aids?" And they'll lean in and look to see whether or not they do. And I have to say, "Yeah, see, this is what they look like. That's all there is. This little thing just goes in my ear, fits behind the ear like that, and I now have it all set up."
That's very good. That's very discreet. And Dr. Mori, what about your field? What's happening in surgery?
Well, you know, I think when it comes to age-related hearing loss, the mainstay of treatment would be hearing aids. When someone fails hearing aids in Canada, they can then be considered for a cochlear implant. A cochlear implant is essentially a surgery where we implant an electrode into the cochlea to help stimulate it. You still have an external hearing aid that you would wear, but again, in Canada, it's for people with bilateral hearing loss who have failed hearing loss or failed hearing aids. At this point, there are also some types of hearing aids that can be implanted into the skull with little screws, but again, the mainstay would be a cochlear implant. We're very lucky in Surrey where I work that we've got a fantastic foundation, the Surrey Memorial Foundation. Jane Adams there has done a great job getting us the equipment we need, but we like to use surgery as a last resort if we can.
There's so much to talk about in this field. We invited you to ask questions of our expert panel, and here's what you wanted to know.
So my father has dementia, and it's a challenge to know whether or not he hears well. Is it possible to test somebody who can't communicate clearly with you or answer questions directly, whether or not their hearing is working?
There's a lot of noise through it, so in crowded situations she has to take them out or turn them down.
Jillian, Dr. Mori, would you like to answer?
It is quite difficult to test someone who is not able to communicate at all. You don't need to be able to communicate verbally, but you do need to be able to push a button, and you need to understand the instructions. So if somebody can do that, then we absolutely can assess their hearing.
Audiometry or being in a booth is the easiest. If you have to start doing auditory brainstem reflexes and that, it becomes much more difficult. And someone in the situation where they're demented, to put them through that testing is quite onerous and difficult.
When I'm in crowded environments, I'm quite often teaching or in a gym or something like that. I went for the type of hearing aid that would work best in that multiple environment so that I don't have to take them out.
With hearing aids, I would say what separates sort of an entry-level hearing aid to your premium top-of-the-line hearing aid is how well that they do in background noise. The technology is much more advanced in, say, a premium hearing aid, and that's ideally what it's going to help you with, is hearing in more challenging listening environments. So for somebody who has a pretty dynamic lifestyle, they really do want to look at a hearing aid that can handle that versus someone who lives a very quiet lifestyle.
It is probably important too to note, Carmen, that any reputable hearing aid dealer will give you a trial. Go get the hearing aid, give it a try, whether it's 2 weeks or 2 months, keep going back, getting them adjusted, having them tweaked so it meets your needs. You're not going to buy a car without test driving. It's the same thing with your hearing aid.
Yeah. And the lifespan of a good hearing aid, how long can Fred assume to have that?
Yeah. So the average life of a typical hearing aid is about 4 years. What happens in the world of hearing aids, though, is technology's always changing. So it would be up to you to decide when do you want to replace that hearing aid. If you want better technology, then you can replace them more often. But the parts will start to break down, and I'd say 4 years is a good average.
The nice thing for me is I can slip in anytime and say, am I keeping this clean enough? Am I looking after it? And he can even tweak the program and adjust it for any changes that have been occurring since I had my last test.
We'll be right back, but first, let's hear more from you.
I think my family is looking forward to it too. I probably won't have the volume on the TV as high as I do, and I won't be saying, huh, what did you say?
It's life, right? And just like you said, Carpe Diem, that's what it's all about. We're just trying to seize the day and get the best of it we can, especially as a senior, you know, like I'm 81, and I think that now this is the time to make sure you have all that you can to make it better.
Carpe Diem. Seizing the day for Canadians as we age.
It's now time to go around the table for our panel's final thoughts on hearing loss as we age. Dr. Mori?
You know, I think hearing loss is a big topic of discussion, and there's lots of things that we can do to correct behaviors that we're doing at an early age to prevent hearing loss as we get older. We know risk factors for hearing loss include vascular problems, so if we're careful with our diet. We know diabetes, again, if we're careful with our diet, can also play into hearing loss. And a big thing is noise exposure. If we really turn down the volume of things that we're exposed to, it will help over our lifetimes. Concerts, sporting events, all these things. really play into it, and really being careful when we're maintaining what we consider ear health, cleaning our ears. For the most part, Q-tips and that aren't going to help you, they're just going to hurt you.
Really the most important thing is to just get your hearing checked, get your hearing tested, and age 60 is the age that we recommend that you start doing that. And that's the first step. You just got to figure out where you're at with your hearing. And I'm very passionate about that, and I'm involved in a campaign that is trying to educate Canadians, especially over the age of 60, to come get a baseline hearing test. It's called the Campaign for Better Hearing, and there are a lot of participating clinics in this area. Hearing Life clinics participate in this campaign, and the test is completely free, so there's not even a cost to it. And at the end of the day, you're going to know what your hearing is like, and that's really the most important thing, is to just get it checked.
Well, for me, I'd like to share an anecdote. I sit at the back of the church quite often to run the PowerPoint slides, and one day one of the sopranos was sitting at the very front of the church, and she didn't have her microphone, but she was humming during a quiet guitar solo, and I could hear it. And it just made me think, how much else am I been missing? But I'm also thinking too that it's not just about me and about the wellness of my life, it's also all those around me, my loved ones, who I would be frustrating because they'd have to repeat themselves, or I'd get them to say, speak up.
And Dr. Moore, you said something interesting earlier about this is the second most common...
In 2003, the Center for Disease Control put out a paper essentially saying that hearing loss was the second most common illness affecting people over the age of 65 behind arthritis.
Arthritis, yeah.
There you go. All the more reason to go and get your hearing tested. Thank you so much, Dr. Maury, Jillian, of course, Fred, for being on this panel. It's been a learning experience, which is what I adore about these conversations. Many of you have written with ideas and comments. We're very grateful for your support, so stay in touch. And that's the show. Remember, as our Carpe president, Moses Neimer, always says, the best way to keep going is to keep going. So stay zippy, and Carpe Diem sees your day.